What's up, good people? This is Coach Trey having a conversation with Pastor Carlos Marshall in this segment of I Don't Look Like What I've Been Through, titled Life After Divorce. Pastor Marshall, you've recently been divorced,
Yes.
and I know a lot of people don't know your story. And I think it's one that needs to be told so that people can see what life is like after divorce and how to overcome it. So, with that being said, just sitting here looking at you, you don't look like you've been through a whole lot. You just came from the gym, you look pretty buff, you look like, a nice looking man. So tell people how you ended up where you are today.
Well, I don't look like what I've been through, but I have been through. And that's the operative word, I've been through. I didn't stay in. But I ended up where I am now because I didn't listen to the red flags. I didn't take heed to what God said, but I'm certainly better for where I am now. Healed and ready for the next chapter of my life.
Now, you mentioned red flags. What were some of those red flags that you kind of ignored?
Well, some of them was not on the same page spiritually. Things that God would tell me, I would share, and it was not received. Different things about the future, didn't see, wasn't eye to eye on things, what we want as far as financially, things of that nature. So those are things I did not stop and take heed to, but I should have. And God has me in a better place now, understanding that those are things that you have to address. You have to be able to tackle.
Okay. So now with you saying that those are things that you need to address and tackle, how did you tackle them? Because I know those were difficult. You're trying to juggle church ministry, you're trying to juggle, other individuals in your church that may have had relational problems.
Right.
So you having to deal with that, plus also deal with your own. So how did you tackle that and make sure there was a balance?
Okay. What I did was I went to God and make sure that He was speaking to me directly. I used all the tools. What I did is took my own medicine. What I told other people to do, I made sure I did for myself.
Wow.
So that was the key for me. I listened to God and I moved on what He told me. I had the skills, I knew what to do, I just had to do it.
Okay.
Put it into action.
Okay. So when did you come to the realization that divorce was inevitable?
Well, for me, it wasn't my choice, but when it was presented to me, I wasn't going to stand in the way because at that point, I know God says He just wanted me to be healed.
Okay.
And that was the key for me. So it wasn't my decision, but I wasn't going to stand in the way of it. And God says, yes, it's okay to move forward.
So as a pastor, we have this stipulation from the Christian community. We're supposed to pray our way through, hang on in there and stick with it. But, you're not human, so to speak. So how did you get past that as it relates to, not staying where you are, but making the decision to go ahead and get divorced?
Well, the first thing I have to say to myself is I'm a man of God, not a God of gods.
All right now.
So that's what I have in mind, that it happens. What I tell people, we're not exempt from challenges. We're supposed to respond to them differently.
Okay.
So when that came about, that let me know that yes, I had to follow God, and God said it's okay to move forward. So I had to listen to God, not to my own feelings, and not to what the expectation of what people have about us, meaning ministers and pastors. So that was my comfort. I had to listen to God first, and He gave me comfort about it.
So as a pastor, did you seek guidance from anyone outside of you going to the Lord?
Oh, absolutely. I did go to a counselor, so helpful to me because what I wanted him to do is speak to Carlos Marshall, not Pastor Marshall. God spoke to Pastor Marshall, and He sent me to someone to speak to Carlos Marshall. And I was whole because God spoke to Pastor Marshall, He spoke to Carlos Marshall, and I was whole.
Okay.
So it really helped me.
That's good. That's good. So do you feel like, I know it's been, how long has it been since you divorced?
It's been over a year now, May 11th of last year.
Over a year. Okay, now you said that you've been made whole. So do you feel like that you can be more effective now in your ministry with your church, now that you've overcome this obstacle? Now I know there's hurts and pains that we endure sometimes, and we don't get over those immediately, but you feel like you're in a better place now that you can be able to effectively be a minister and a pastor and a shepherd to your flock at this time?
Without a doubt, because I can minister to people in a way now that I could not before, because I've been there. I even asked God, well, how can I minister to people when I'm going through it? God said, that's why you can. That qualified me to be able to do it.
Okay.
When I tell people I understand it, I feel them, I truly can, because I've been there, done that.
Right, so you walk in somebody else's shoes.
Absolutely.
You walk in, so you be able to tell people I've been there, and so you can relate more.
Absolutely. And what I've realized too, everything that happens to us is not for us, It's for those people that will come across our path. So I said, okay, God, if I had to go through this to help someone else, so be it.
Okay.
And that's my take on it. That's the way I look at it.
So what would you say be, if you had the opportunity to share with some struggling couple who's really trying to make it work and feel like they've exhausted all their resources, what would be, let's say, one thing that you can tell them that could help them to try to make that ultimate decision? I know for me, I don't advocate divorce, but if that's what's on the table, then
Right.
sometimes that may be the end result.
Right.
So what would you share with that couple that's struggling to trying to decide, what steps or what it is that they want to officially, end up doing?
Right. First of all, talk to God individually, talk to God together, and get counseling. Definitely let someone else, because a lot of times that third party is that mediator. They hear it from both sides. When you're saying it from yourself, it doesn't sound the same way as it does when someone else is saying it. So allow someone else to hear what you're saying to be able to tell it back to that person. So definitely seeking counseling. I would say that certainly. And Christian counselor to understand that, but being under practical advice as well. So certainly counseling, I would say.
Okay.
Yeah. And I would say counseling someone that neither one of them know. I would say it's not bad to go at the church, but I would go someone neutral
Right.
that neither people know. So that way it's totally neutral. They don't feel like they are leaning on one side.
Somebody's impartial.
Correct.
So you mentioned that you learned some lessons. What were some of those lessons that you learned in the midst of you trying to, navigate through this divorce?
Well, the one thing I learned is being patient. And God gave me that to even preach on yesterday, being patient. But what I also learned about, once God gives me the strength from being patient, He wants me to move. So yes, He wants us to stand still,
Right.
but not stand still forever.
Okay.
God says stand still until I give you everything you need. Once you get it, then I need you to move. So now that's the part I'm in now.
You're moving.
I'm moving. I stayed still long enough.
Okay.
Now I'm moving.
So now, does it make you feel uncomfortable when you're doing the marriage counseling for individuals? Some might say, well, how can you counsel me if you're divorced? If your marriage didn't work, how are you going to give me some advice to help me to keep my marriage together?
I don't feel embarrassed at all. I tell them you can learn things two ways. You can learn things by doing something the way a person did it, and you can learn by doing it the opposite of what someone did.
Okay.
So I share everything that I did. I say, don't do that. Well, do this. And that's why I don't feel embarrassed, because God is getting the glory from it. God is just using me. I'm just that tool to be used to do it. So it's no embarrassment, because people are blessed by it.
Right.
When I see people after counseling sessions tell me how blessed they were, this past couple that matter of fact, I have one now, they were originally going to have Bishop Hawkins married them. I just do the wedding, do the counseling sessions. Our last session, they said, we feel so comfortable with you, I want you to do our wedding as well. So I look at the benefit from it, and they say, you know what? Because you were so transparent, I know what you're saying is real.
Okay.
I know what you're saying, and we're going to benefit from it. So that's been the blessing part for me about it.
Right.
I don't look like what I've been through because I'm healed. I don't look like what I've been through because God has a purpose, and there's always a purpose in the pain. And God has told me that I have to go through in order to get to the other side.
Wow.
So I don't look like what I've been through because people need to see God. They don't need to see me.
Come on now, you just said a mouthful there, Pastor
Yeah,
Marshall. So it's been great conversation with you. Los, what we call you. But I have one final question for you. How is life after divorce for Carlos Marshall, and then for Pastor Marshall?
Because God was in it before I got divorced, He's with me now. So God has shown me so many different things. He's given me so many different opportunities to be able to share with people. So life is really, really great. I've gotten a chance to learn more, got a chance to be able to experience more things. Now as a pastor, it's really great because God is sending people my way that are having relationship challenges. One of the greatest things I experienced, there's a couple that was concerned about who was going to counsel them because they both were divorced. Well, the person that's over the wedding ministry told them, I have the perfect person for you. And when I went to the counseling session, I start off by telling them about myself. You can physically see the weight off their shoulders when I told them I had been divorced. They thought that I was going to judge them, but when I told them my story, it was like a weight off. So I have been blessed to see, both as a man, Carlos Marshall, Pastor Marshall, my life is better now than it ever been. I'm in a better place, and God is getting the glory. I told God, when no one has written something to encourage men, God said, will you write it?
Come on now.
I said, okay, God. So that's what it started from. My personal journal, God says, I want you to make it public.
Okay.
So that's what this is.
Okay. So do you feel any type of embarrassment?
You know, I don't. I really don't feel any type of embarrassment because God's getting the glory. So when God gets the glory, I'm just used to be able to do that. And so I don't feel any kind of embarrassment. And I tell members at the church, don't walk on eggshells about relationships. And I tell them about that because I have quite a few couples. So I tell them to celebrate love. Don't walk on eggshells. Don't dance around it about your love. Celebrate it because I'm still in a good place, because the thing is, I am a husband, period. I've never stopped being a husband, even though I'm not married.
Wait a minute, now you got to explain that. Help the people out
Yes,
now. You
yes.
gotta explain that. What's that?
I'm not, trust me, God has already taught me to be a husband. I live my life as a husband, not a bachelor, not just running. I live my life as a husband. God says when he send that person, I don't have to switch gears to start being a husband again.
Okay.
I'm already there. I live my life
that's
as a
profound.
husband. And that is what has helped me, because I was called to be a husband.
Okay, so we're talking about this book, guys, and it is God's Mighty Men. Now you say that you write what you say from your heart to the journal and so forth. Now I believe it sounds like to me you're saying, because once you've done it, it's gone. Sounds like to me this book is about release.
Yes. Oh my
and
goodness.
getting relief,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
restoration.
All of the above.
Probably some transformations going to take place when you read this.
Absolutely.
And then you mentioned the word healing. So I think it's really imperative that, the people get this book, but also so that they can get what they need through the eyes of someone else that, when they're walking through that particular
Absolutely.
season. So would you agree that this book encompasses all those things?
All of it. And I love that you mentioned that, because even though it says God's mighty men, I don't want the women to feel
We
like,
put woe in front of this. Too,
oh
right?
my goodness. Yes. And I love that, because the thing is, when I look at this, you have to write to one particular audience.
Right.
That's why it's for men. I didn't want to take the emphasis off of men, but at the end of each chapter, I have something called Note to the Ladies.
Okay.
And what that does is allow them to be able to go on that journey with us. I want them to know they have a responsibility to either helping their man become a mighty man, helping keep him there, or help to him courage to be able to help someone else be there.
Okay.
So I want the women to know that, and ladies to know that they have a part to play in this. So that's why at the end of each chapter, you will see a note to the ladies. And it's something specific to them of how they can help us get there.
Tell the listeners, the viewers, everyone how they can find your book. Give us your social media handles. How can we
Yes.
reach you? Somebody needs a church home, that may be viewing. So just tell us a little bit of how they can get your book and how they can reach you and get in contact with you.
Okay. You can reach me at carloskmarshall.com. You can go on Amazon to get a digital or paper copy. And my media handles is the same on Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter. It's Carlos K. Marshall. Very simple. You can reach me in the same way on all my media handles. But go out and get the book. It's at carloskmarshall.com. It's on Amazon. It's also at Barnes & Noble.
And there you have it, people. Today's segment, conversation with Coach Trey. I don't look like what I've been through. Life after divorce. With our special guest, our brother and friend. It is so good that he has joined us and shared just a little bit just to give us some hope. So we hope that you stay tuned in for our next segment. And until then, peace.